temporary nationwide injunction imposed by Judge Mark Pittman in the Northern District of Texas is a victory for major banks and credit card companies.
Russian military forces have launched a fresh series of attacks on the region surrounding the northeastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, leading to the evacuation of thousands from the area.
On Saturday, Russian officials claimed to have captured 5 villages near the Ukrainian town of Vovchansk.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has overseen another test firing of a new multiple rocket launch system that the country plans to deploy to its forces starting this year, according to state media reports. Federal prosecutors are seeking the maximum sentence for the man who was convicted of breaking into former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco home and attacking her husband.
The opinions expressed on this program are those of the host or guest and should not be interpreted as statement of fact. Independent fact-checking and corrections are encouraged.
Can we get a cup of coffee in here, please? Damn good coffee, and hot.
My dog is your mind's best friend.
Wake up, America. You've got a dog that needs walking. That's right, sunshine. Just put on a big pot of strong coffee and get ready to type your little hate mail with your opinions about kumbaya and flat earth insanity. Stand-up comedy? You want stand-up comedy? Well, we've got sit-down comedy. It's time for Coffee with a Dog. You make me laugh.
I don't make you laugh.
Yeah. Get him.
I don't know why you just yelled, get him. You must be having a psychotic break again.
Get him.
There's an article in the New Yorker that says, "Can forgetting help you remember?" Whatever. Good morning, folks. It is Monday, the dreariest, depressing day of the week, but we got Dwoskin. You got Dwoskin? No, you don't got Dwoskin. We got Dwoskin. Dwoskin is so inspiring that I want to change my name to start it with a DW. Dwapo. Matt Dwapo. Now, that might work for me. It would work for G.D. Fenderson, too. Dwenderson. Or Stephen Ortiz. But it would not work for Ron Kane because then he would just be Dwayne. Ron Dwayne. And that's already a word, so it's not like really that catchy. I don't know. Well, it's Monday, which means we just got over a dreadful weekend of misery and suffering. I hope you enjoyed it. There was a lot to enjoy this weekend. First of all, if you're wondering why it looks a little different in the setup I have, it's because I am now broadcasting from a sign over Trader Joe's. I'm living actually in the sign above Trader Joe's. I don't know how I got in here, but I got plenty of food to keep warm, keep fed, and I have a computer and a desk, and that's all I really need. I hope nobody finds me living here in the sign above Trader Joe's. Couple of things I want to talk about today. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Did a stand-up bit at the LA Forum with the Kill Tony people as part of Netflix is a Joke week. Our buddy Mike Binder set that up. I talked to Mike yesterday just to confirm that he did set that up. I knew he was a friend of Tony Hinchcliffe, and I knew he was a good friend of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for, lifetime. So I kind of assumed when I saw that Kennedy was doing that Mike was behind that a little bit. apparently Stephen Ortiz wants me dead because I know this, which doesn't make any sense at all. I just know what I know. I didn't commit any crimes, but now all of a sudden he's on the death penalty case with Ron Kane just because of that. So listen, I support it. I support Robert F. Kennedy Jr. going for stand-up. I don't support him for president, but if he's going to become a stand-up comic, that keep him out of the Oval Office, fine. You know, go do some open mics. Anyway, there's that. And there's Jerry Seinfeld, again, in the news, or something worth talking about or thinking about. Seinfeld was giving the commencement speech at Duke, and students walked out in protest. Apparently, and maybe I missed something, apparently there's this perception that Jerry Seinfeld is a Zionist. Yes. Now, I've never heard him even say anything about the conflict that's going on in Israel. But apparently, he has this perception of being that. Now, is it just because he's Jewish? I think we are walking a fine line in our discourse today between Zionists and anti-Semitism, and there's no middle ground. Like, I don't hear anybody calling out Hamas. No, obviously, Hamas has to have some leadership somewhere. If it's an organization, it has to be somewhere, and that's probably in Iran. But you know, the people behind this whole thing, the real bad guys, the initial bad guys. Now, you can say Israel's a bad actor and all this stuff too, especially under Netanyahu's guidance. But the people who started this stuff are Hamas, and a lot of people who call themselves pro-Palestinian are really pro-Hamas. They're using the Palestinians just like Hamas does, except they're not using them as human shields. They're using them as propaganda pawns for their anti-Semitism. And somewhere in between being anti-Semitic and being a Zionist, we can figure out that war is bad for everybody. And the people who want war, more war, whether it's Netanyahu or whoever the fucking leaders of Hamas are, nameless leaders of Hamas, those are the bad guys. You have Jewish people in America, even if they put, I'm going to say this, even if they put Israel first in their loyalties, America, whatever, they're not your enemies. People are allowed to have different perspectives and different points of view on this stuff. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to bring the panel of crazy people who want me executed now in after this message from Mindbloom. Did you know that you can get ketamine therapy shipped directly to your home, and you can trip out, put a mask on, and not care so much about RFQ or Jerry Seinfeld or any of that kind of stuff? Yes, you can. And you can do it with Mindbloom, our sponsors. You have to pass a test with a clinical clinician, a psychiatric clinician, but they're there for you. Mindbloom.
Mindbloom is helping people achieve life-changing clinical and personal breakthroughs, alchemizing both the psychedelic medication, psychiatric care from psychiatric clinicians, coaches, we call psychedelic guides, and a lot of content and meditations and programs into this really transformational experience that, because it's delivered at home, costs a lot less and is a lot more convenient for people to receive.
All right, then. Well, let's all trip out on that stuff. Anyway, let's put him over here for a second. I can't do that, can I? Go ahead, talk.
Good morning, America. Memorial Day is coming up, and if you want to look your best while you grill your breast, you are going to want to get one of our classy aprons. Look as hot as your charcoal minddogtv.com. Enjoy the suffering.
Enjoy the suffering. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. What suffering was intense this weekend, but I enjoyed it. I have to say, I'm confused by the anger and Stephen Ortiz's comment that he wants me executed, along with, I guess, Mike Binder and RFQ. What's behind all the anger and hate? That's your answer? Just a little giggle?
He's frozen.
He froze up. He froze up in the middle of wanting me executed. Well, that's a good thing, I guess. He'll get another shot.
I don't know what's happening. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Issues? Yes, we can hear
Great.
you. Yeah.
And
technical issues. The technical issues show.
I don't know what's happening.
All right. Well, try to fix it up.
Yeah, that's my life right now.
Yeah. You're on delay. You're on Willie.
Yeah, he's starting to sound like I was not going to go there, man, but I will say that he's starting to sound a little less optimistic, like he used to always say. Hi, I'm Stephen Ortiz. I'm so happy. And the longer he stays in this group, the more negative it becomes.
I'm a bad influence on the kid. What can I say? This is who I am. I'm a Mr. Bad Influence. I think that's
he's living his best Matt life.
Yeah. So all right, we can move on from that. I know we'll probably
is that better?
talk about, it wasn't bad for us. It's can you hear me?
Good for you?
1, 2, 3. Why don't you bop out and come and see if you can fix it, and then come back when you're confident that you have something that works.
Yep.
How about that? Yeah.
Now you sound like his first date.
I know.
Pop out, pop in when you feel confident.
Yeah, we got Dwoskin. You guys, are you familiar with Dwoskin? Dwoskin
we went to school together.
You're not gonna like Dwoskin because he's more successful than both of you, and I know you don't like.
That means I wouldn't like anybody. That means I wouldn't like anybody.
That's true. That's true. I forgot. I'm sorry. So yeah, that's one good positive thing this morning is we got Dwoskin. But were you guys surprised by the RFK thing at the forum? And do you have any thoughts on that before we come back to it?
No surprises, no thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not surprised. It kind of seems on brand for that podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. We have Richard Francis Williams on. I think he's going to be on Friday. He's definitely going to be on in the next week or so, but probably Friday. And he's got a dentist appointment he has to clear out. But Richard Francis Williams is the guy who started that whole controversy with Kill Tony Must Die, that whole video that he did and all that stuff, and took a lot of hate for it. So he's going to be on Friday. We'll get to talk to him about that. The only problem I have with it is it's supposed to be a bucket where everybody has a chance. Nobody's fixed. Like, there's no fixing. But they pull your name out of a bucket. Oh, it's Robert F. Kennedy. That seems like it takes the lid or the cat out of the bag. And now, how do we know any of them aren't already predetermined? If you're going to expose yourself as pulling out a predetermined lottery winner, then
what if there's a bucket and the names are in it, but Robert F. Kennedy's name is like glued to the side, so they just reach in, so all the names are in there. It's or what if this is just what if there's a scam? I'm just saying they're just scamming us. It's like you said, I don't know.
It could be, but how do we know all of them aren't fixed then? That's my problem with not that they obviously they wanted them on there, and however the mechanism worked, but if they can rig it for one, they can rig it for all. And how do we know they aren't all? Anyway.
It's showbiz, baby. It's showbiz.
I'm pretty sure he was a predetermined guest.
Yeah.
Predetermined. I'm definitely sure he was a predetermined guest.
No, I just mean they didn't pull his name out of the bucket though.
I think they did. Did you watch the video?
I did.
Well, I think in like a show business way, but yeah, he's a predetermined guy.
Yeah, no, because they had a whole video ready for him and everything. Like there was.
That's true.
Like,
all right. Well, we can get to the bottom of why you want me executed over this.
6 degrees of separation. You know the guy that knows the guy, and you didn't prevent it from happening.
Why would I want to prevent it from happening? I encourage him to be a stand-up comic. I don't encourage him to be president of the United States. But if he wants to start doing open mics and showing up at all, I would not pay to see him. And if he was on there, I'd probably walk out not because of his politics, but because I can't understand a word he says. And even if he was my father and I was taking care of him, I'd probably walk out of him because I can't stand to listen to that voice for more than a few seconds.
No, Matt, I would never want you dead.
All right, we'll come back to this. We got to get Dwoskin in here because
he's here.
Dwoskin is the highlight of the week. Jeff Dwoskin is he's the host of Classic Conversations. He's the king of Detroit. He also is the host of Crossing the Streams, which I know you guys like to practice when I'm not around.
Yeah.
And he is a far more successful comedian than any of you guys will ever hope to be. So you can all put your hate hat on for him. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Jeff Dwoskin. Hey, you're stealing my spot. There you go.
I feel I have not been set up to succeed with that introduction. How are you guys?
Morning.
I like to set the bar high. I heard once Craig Ferguson was about to introduce Attell, and he said, "My next guest is the greatest comedian ever lived," and yet no. From the backstage. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you?
All right.
So happy to be here.
Let me ask you about Detroit first of all, because a couple of weeks ago, there was this thing about Detroit having a renaissance and coming back, and there was definitely, I think you would agree, a down period for Detroit. Have you noticed? Have you seen a renaissance in Detroit?
We had a patch. Yes, that's true. There is a stretch of Detroit, which is what they refer to with the Illich and Gilbert areas from Campus Marsh that stretches to the Little Caesars Arena. That is absolutely incredible. Yes. Wow. Tons of great food, shopping. Every sports team is in Detroit. I think we're one of the few cities that have all four major teams in one city.
Yeah.
And so
y'all have a curling team?
Yes, we do.
Damn.
But you don't have a NASCAR track.
We don't. No, but we do have tracks in Michigan.
There was some.
But we're not talking about the arms. We're not talking about the arm tracks. We're talking about.
There was some controversy
inner city Detroit
about NASCAR, and I forget they cut away from the NASCAR thing to cover a dog show or something.
Yeah,
I think you're thinking of the Billy Joel concert where they cut away at the end during Piano Man.
Not happy for the people who love watching cars go around and around and around.
Hey, you leave NASCAR alone, man. We like going left and going fast. All right, raise hell, praise Dale.
Yeah. Are you following this Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Run for presidency?
Am I following it?
Yeah,
I hope he'll be just as successful as every other third candidate that's ever been in the history of running for president. So, just
when you say successful, do you mean successful like ruining it for the good people who?
Yeah, that was in italics with little asterisks next to it and sarcastic contests.
Oh, okay, because there's a lot of different ways of being successful. Like he could really be successful and win it all, or he could really be successful and fuck it up for the rest of us. He could be successful at that also. What did I say?
I think it's as much chance as that third brother in Succession had at getting to be president.
Now, were you familiar with what he did this weekend? He was on Kill Tony. They brought him up to do stand-up comedy at the LA Forum in front of thousands and thousands of people.
I saw that he did it. I do know they're doing a comedy tour with Mike Binder, and they're going all over. They were in Detroit.
And Binder is a good friend of RFQ and RFK Jr. I'm sorry. And he set that whole thing up. Now, I was talking to him about it yesterday. He is convinced that the crowd loved him. The crowd really, really enjoyed his comedy. I was like, how would they know? I mean, they were laughing, but I can't understand the word he said. Maybe they were just laughing at the fact that he was being up there, whatever. But I I can't hear the jokes. I played back the tape a little bit. I can't hear what he's saying. That's funny. But these guys, Steven was upset with me for even being associated with Mike Binder, who set the whole thing up. But I'm not upset by it. I think I would rather see him be a successful stand-up than run for president and actually, just ruin things for America. Not that things are great anyway, but it could get worse. So there's that. Yeah, you have any? Because we're going to be talking about Kill Tony. Are you familiar with the Kill Tony phenomena?
I'm not. I know brainworms. I know that's pretty much what I know about RFK.
All right. Well, no, this isn't necessarily about RFK. Kill Tony is that that thing. Pull a bucket out of pull your name out of a bucket thing. Richard Francis Williams had written and did a video about Kill Tony being disruptive for comedy, bad for show business, bad for culture and society in general. This idea that comedians get in their mind that they can go out there, do a minute, get discovered, and be famous overnight. And really, there's none of that. The chances of that are less than winning the lottery. And
why does this person think Kill Tony invented this? This is the TikTok phenomenon. You go and you do.
I think it's a Gong Show,
and you're getting booked in clubs.
It's the Gong Show thing because nobody. This is my thing on it. Nobody's going out there to actually kill Tony. I mean, comedic wise, they're going out there to bomb, and they're going out there to bomb so that they get more attention by bombing. And I do think that was Richard Williams' whole take on it, is that what, this is not good. We're encouraging meanness. We're encouraging because you wouldn't pay to go to a comedy club to see somebody bomb. But you're going there hoping that you're going to see people fail so that you can ridicule them. Not a good thing. What's your
Well, I mean, I'm not totally familiar, but if I'm gleaning that people just go up and do their first minute, you're describing an open mic. I mean, this is where people fail. So I mean, it's some people are good, but like that's where you grow. I mean, it's not, look at it would be the worst thing anything can happen if someone gets up there first time, kills, and then gets booked to do 45 minutes. Or walk off that stage in 5 minutes. And
has that happened? You guys know
that?
Has anybody gone from 1 minute on Tony to 45 to like headlining or any of that kind of stuff?
I know that William Montgomery, Cam Patterson, and a couple of the other guys headline all over the place, and they started there on Kill Tony.
Wow. Because William Montgomery brings up a note for his 1 minute. He brings up written notes for 1 minute. I can't imagine him doing 45 minutes with. He'd have to have a long sheet of paper. Anyway,
the only way somebody could do 45 minutes successfully after doing only 1 minute would be if they already could do the 45 minutes.
Yeah. But you are I guess, critic of pop culture. That's what Crossing the Streams is all about. It's really about television, but it's about what's going on in the pop culture world.
I wouldn't say I'm a critic, and I wouldn't say it's what's going on. I talk to people who were famous in the 70s. So,
all right, yeah. But so what Crossing the Streams is, it's helping people figure out what to watch. Isn't that a critic's job?
Oh, that's Crossing the Streams. Yes. Well, we don't tell people what to watch. We tell people what we watched that we liked.
Right.
The idea of Crossing the Stream. Well, I thought you said Classic Conversations.
I'm wondering
that one. I'm not being a critic. Crossing the Streams is just suggestions. We watch stuff and we tell people about it. It's like when you're sitting around with your friends at the bar or wherever you hang out, and just say, "Hey, guess what I just watched?" Except we don't focus on the thing that just came out usually.
Right.
It's like, oh, did you find this? Because we all have all these streaming services, and they all have 1,000 things. Like, I'm just a little behind the 8 ball on this one, but just starting to watch Always Sunny. But it's like one of those things though, where you get reminded of shows, because eventually, even a show that you want to watch, wish you could watch, you get buried. There's so much content. So you just, a reminder sometimes is nice too, of some of the older stuff that sits out there that's worth a watch.
Are you a binger? Like binge watch?
Yeah, we binge. Yeah, sure. Who doesn't? I mean,
that is kind of the new, because television wasn't that way. I mean, when I grew up, it was impossible to binge watch. But now, like, my wife will find shows and she will watch like 10 seasons within, I don't know, 2 weeks time. 10 seasons of a show, like just watch one episode after another all day and all night long. It's a whole different, I don't know, a whole different way to watch and consume television than in the past.
I mean, you didn't do it when you were, when you were growing up, because there was only 3 channels,
right?
And binging didn't really even become potentially a thing until they accidentally kind of stumbled on TV on DVD.
Right.
And once they started putting like seasons of TV on DVD, that's when all of a sudden you could, I can watch all of this now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was the original binge. It wasn't like watching Netflix
right.
and binging it. It was, you go by season 1 of Lost and you just plowed through season 1 of Lost.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, though, to do a show on it, like a weekly show on television, you have to kind of do that first of all, to have enough content to talk about, because if you just can't talk about the same show week after week, it's got to be a new show every week. Yeah, or no, you're talking about,
unless it's a rewatch show. It depends on what the show is, right?
All right.
So, I mean, there's just starting. They just announced Woody Harrelson and Ted Danson are doing Where Everyone Knows Your Name. So they're doing kind of a Cheers thing, and so those rewatch shows have a finite number of kind of episodes usually, because there's only so many episodes of that particular show. So that's probably what draws those celebrities to it. They know they're not stuck there forever.
Now, would you do anything on? So you're not doing like new stuff. So you wouldn't do anything like this John Mulaney, everyone's in LA, or any of that kind of stuff.
It's not that we don't do new stuff. It's just sometimes we don't, and sometimes we don't like to wait. We wait till it's over. The Mulaney thing's like in the middle. We talked about Baby Reindeer, which is brand new, and I recommend to all of you guys, if you haven't
do recommend it, because it creeped me out. I mean, I know
it's a very uncomfortable show to watch, but it's a quick watch, and it's probably one of the best one-season shows that it'll be on people's top 10 lists for sure.
Have you ever done a stand-up in the UK?
No.
Because it's a different perspective, right? That guy, I don't know. I have some friends who do it over there. It did not seem like the U.S. way of, because he wasn't a top-level comedian. He was a guy who was going around doing open mics and that kind of stuff. Seemed to be getting more time than most open micers do. But, the beginning level comedian, it just seemed like a whole different experience over there. Like, I don't know. It's just that level of comedy, it seemed like there's more of it, or more opportunity for it over there. Because here, if you're as bad as that guy was doing, you'd run out of opportunities in like a week. Nobody would want to give you any time. So just curious.
I think there's a lot of opportunities probably in the United States, in every state, every city. You just got to adjust your material. If you're in the UK, you're like, what's up with fish and chips?
Yeah. So how do you find time in your life for doing?
I feel like these guys are just watching us. Let's all talk.
they will. They're still getting awake over here. You don't want to get GD started, because once he gets started, he will annoy the hell out of you. That's what's going to happen.
Very true.
Yeah. Oh, you haven't met these guys, by the way. Let me formally introduce you. Stephen Sitcom Ortiz, that's the guy who wants to have me executed. G.D. Fenderson, who does not call himself...
Stand in line, Steve. Stand in line.
Stand in line. He's a certified forensic humorist. And Ron Kane, who is actually a really good comedian, really funny guy, but he tends to do RFK Jr. till he can't talk anymore, and impersonations and stuff. So
he has a throat disorder. It's like a thing, right? I mean, it's not.
It's not a throat disorder. It's a brain disorder.
No, he's got the brain worms, but that just...
no. It's called
the brain
dysphonia.
disorder that makes it thing. Okay.
You're right. His brain is sending the bad signals to his throat. This is some kind of dysphonia.
Really? I thought it was from crack pipe. That's
no, the
what
crack pipe. Well, the crack pipe was pushed into his head, which caused a brain disorder. Hence
on the video
dystonia.
he put out last week. He said it was, or at least he did not dispel the idea that it was from smoking too much crack.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, according to his previous statements about his mental status and what caused the throat years ago. That's what he said before he was prone to telling lies. That's what he said it was.
Oh, all right. So yeah, now I could not sleep last week because of the brain. Even last night, I was still. How do we get brainworms?
Amazon. You order them through Amazon. I thought everybody
I saw it on TikTok. Somebody eats undercooked pork, and then that gets into their stool, and then somebody who ate the undercooked pork who then expels that stool and doesn't wash their hands makes your food, and then you eat that food, and then you get the brainworms.
Oh my goodness, not good.
Source TikTok, so no one push back. That can't be a lie.
Now it sounds like you went.
Have you ever seen the guy on TikTok or Instagram that does eat just raw chicken?
Yeah, it's fucking gross, man.
That's gross. It's gross.
Yeah, he'll eat raw chicken. He's like, I haven't gotten
KFC.
Now, did you purposely go to look that up on TikTok, or you just stumbled across that video?
I just stumbled across it.
I'm
also in Great White Shark Attack TikTok, which is fascinating.
So you're not
that one's fun.
You're not neurotic about the brainworm thing, because for me, I haven't, but I probably would have looked it up today. Like, how am I going to get brainworms? Because I'm not a lot of stuff freaks me. I'm not like a germaphobe, but the idea of a brainworm definitely freaked me out a little bit. And I had a couple of rough nights trying to get to sleep thinking about brainworms.
His brain didn't get eaten, though. That's what the TikTok also said, that it doesn't eat your brains. But
hey, I got a TikTok pulled up. I got a TikTok pulled up if you want to see a guy eating raw chicken.
Not just that.
Is it going to cost us money?
Yeah, it probably.
That's just a TikTok.
Just a chunkier soul.
We'll come back to it later. We're not. It's too early for raw chicken. Now, bird flu is making a
comeback.
Yeah, comeback.
We'll call it a comeback.
It's a different version of bird flu than we had in 2003, 2004, and it's according to what I read this morning. It's everywhere now. It's in beef. It's in milk. It's everywhere, and so people are downplaying it like, it's nothing to worry about. I think it's something to worry about. It could be another pandemic on the way and the end of the world, which, you know what, at this point, what do I care? I'm going to die anyway. But for you young fellas, it might mean something. Might be
in theory, in theory, the next epidemic is already here. It's in Texas right now. Texas ranchers aren't letting the CDC in to check out their cows.
Right. What happened? You just screwed up the whole layout here, Ron, with that. There you go. You got to come back to number 4, number 5, whatever. Four cams. Anyway, so yeah. So do you now back to Crossing the Streams? Is it the same panel every time, or you have different people on?
We have different people on. We have some people that are regulars, but it doesn't mean they show up every week. And then we just invite people on. You're all welcome to come.
Do you plan it? Are you like a meticulous planner? You kind of like, this is what we're watching this week, and this is. Do you give people assignments like this is your?
Everyone can bring to the table whatever they watched.
Really? So it's a surprise thing. It's like improv.
Well, they tell me ahead of time so I can make the slides. But other than that, yeah, it's it's not meant to be homework. It's meant to be a fun time.
I know. But
I don't want to make you watch. Could you go? Ron, if you could go binge 8 seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine for me, that would be great. I'll see.
Right. Got
it. That particular one I might be able to do.
I know. Yeah. I just rewatched it. It was great.
What's the best show you've seen since you've been doing this that you would your top recommendation of any show that you've previewed?
Well, I would say watch Baby Reindeer. I really do think it's the first show I think I watched the whole season in one day. It's short though. It's not like they're
I
hour
recommended it 2 weeks ago. Did you guys watch any of it at all?
I'm a big
I
floppy
forgot you even
vagine. I don't like
recommended it.
horror stuff.
Like,
Yeah, I
Baby Ranger is about a comedian, so that's relatable. And then it's a guy who's trying to be a comedian in UK, but it's not really about that. But that just happens to be, and his stalker. It's also about abuse, so it's like it's a very dark thing, but it's very well done. It's really, really, really good.
The woman, the real woman who the stalker is based on, is suing the company now. You aware of that she feels like
She was on Piers. I was surprised how much physically she looked like the person in the show, because I assumed that they had changed her likeness. Like, to me, like, I was like, could this really be her? They couldn't have been that dumb to like cast somebody who literally looked like her.
If I have to be a body shamer,
it's not about body shaming.
But I'm just saying she wasn't quite as obese as the woman who portrayed it.
But there was a very specific resemblance, right?
Yeah, there was. It was close enough that I was like, wait a second, I'm confused what the issue is now. Was it that she was too close or not enough? Because
yeah, I know.
Wait, you watched it?
Yeah, I didn't.
I thought
No, I came across a TikTok about it, and I was watching the video, and they were going back and forth with the photos, and I was just
that's
like,
all you have to do in life. You don't really actually have to do any real deep dive. You just
the
have
only
to
reason
go
I
over
don't,
it.
the only reason I didn't deep dive is because I didn't really have any interest in seeing the show. But now that I've heard it's it's decent, I might have to check it out. But
yeah,
it's really good. It's really good. And then if I were to give you one other suggestion, which is one season, so it's an easy watch, but it's a great show. It's on Apple TV. It's called Blackbird, 2 words.
Blackbird.
It's with Taron Egerton and Paul Walter Hauser. He just won an award for it. It's one season. It's just like one story. It's a true story based on a true story. But I guess both of these are based on true stories that we're talking about. But Blackbird is incredible. It's a great.
Huh. And that's Apple TV. Now, if I can, probably just a little bit, what's your television streaming bill like? Are you paying for every service that's out there, subscriptions for everything?
I do, but that has nothing to do with crossing the streams. I just, with kids and stuff, you need variety.
I can't. You know what? I watch Netflix online. That's about it. I don't do regular television. So, and it would just why it would be
Netflix and yelling at the kids to get off your lawn. I get it.
Yeah, that's me. That's right.
It keeps you busy. Keeps you busy.
In that neighborhood, there are no kids. What do you call a baby deer? A fawn. They're fawns. He yells at the fawns to get off his lawn because they're stealing his pot.
I haven't seen. I was just commenting on this last night that I have not seen the deer since the cats took over the property. We have feral cats now. We have, depending on the day, 9 or 11 feral cats living on my property, and I think they chased the deer away. I don't know why deer would be, a little bit intimidated by cats, but it seems like they are, because it's been like a month and a half, no deer. Turkey, plenty of turkey, no deer.
Deer are also intimidated by almost anything that moves suddenly or irrationally.
Except the guy sitting in a chair smoking a joint. They're not intimidated by that at all.
That's because if you're smoking a joint, they know you're not going to do anything.
It's too high.
You're smoking a joint.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Hey, Jeff,
this smell means this guy's going to be nice.
I got a question for you, Jeff, about Brooklyn Nine-Nine. What do you, like, I've watched all those seasons, and the one thing I noticed with Brooklyn Nine-Nine is that probably around the later part of season 2, there seems to be a big tone shift in the show, and especially going into season 3.
Allow me to address. So, my opinion is, yes, when they go to Florida, it loses it for about 4 to 6 episodes. And then when they brought in the one guy, he's in everything, the crazy guy. What's his name? He was in The League. He's been in like a million things. He was.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. He played Rafi on The League.
Yeah. I thought they brought him in a little too strong. They toned him. they didn't tone him down later, but I think he came in a little strong that threw off, I thought, the vibe of the show. But I think then it picks it right back up. Then it just, once it kind of gets through that little sophomore bump, I think it goes right back to where it was until you get to like the later seasons where, like specifically season 8, after it shifted to NBC, where, you know, in the country, the whole attitude towards the police had shifted. During Wild Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So here you had a comedy about cops, you know, and that's not what people wanted to see. And they did address it in the last season, very specifically. And then, you know, then that was sort of the tail end of the show. But I loved it. It was sad watching it because Andre Braugher had died before I started watching the show. And when you're sitting there watching it, and you're like, I mean, they're all great, but that guy's a freaking
gem. He was fantastic as Captain Holt. I mean, he
so good. So
Dennis
good.
Leary did a comedy about cops. It was pretty good years ago when I was still a television.
Rescue Me? Or was that the
The Job or something? I think it was called The Job. I don't. Lenny Clark was in it. Adam Ferrara. Oh, yeah, it was all stand-up comedians who were friends of Dennis Leary's.
Yeah, I think that's Rescue Me.
That was the fire department.
That was the 9/11 firefighter one, wasn't it?
That's a different one. He had the fire. He had two, a cop show and a New York Fire Department show. Boston guy doing New York stuff. While we're on television, before we get on did you watch the Netflix the Seinfeld movie, The Unfrosted?
You know, enough people got to me to let me know it was not good that I did not watch it.
Really? Are you a Seinfeld hater?
I don't hate it. It's just, you know, I only got so much time in the day. You know, I mean, if it's not like Ricky Stenicki, you want to watch a funny movie that's mindless and hilarious. John Cena is freaking hilarious in that movie. It's just a funny movie, but I just don't have time. You know, it's like I watched the Nikki Glazer portion probably 5 times of the Tom Brady roast, but I don't got 3 hours to sit there and watch people talking about Tom Brady. Who's got that kind of time?
No, I totally get that.
But you did watch Ricky Stenicki, so there's that too.
That was fun movie. You can't.
I watched it. I thought it was like a typical modern comedy. Too long.
Was so funny in that movie.
I felt it was just too long, and there was a good 20 minutes you could have cut off.
You should invite Ron on Crossing the Streams. He's a showbiz guy.
Ron, I would love to have you on Crossing the Streams.
Finger on the pulse of entertainment. Yeah. So, but the reason I wanted to segue into Seinfeld, because he did a commencement speech at Duke this weekend, and a lot of students walked out calling him a Zionist, and I was like, I don't know. I've never heard him be political at all or say anything about Israel or what's going on over there. Is it just anti-Semitism? Is it just, the Southern Duke mentality? He's a Jew. He must be a Zionist and walking out on him. But there seems to be a lot of Seinfeld hate right now, and I don't get it. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the guy. I did enjoy the program when it was on, but I reluctantly watched the movie, and I thought it was dumb funny enough that it made me giggle in enough places. And I said this last week, I started out in a bad mood and I ended up after the movie in a good mood. So I think as a comedy it did its job. That's my little Crossing the Streams contribution here this morning.
It looks like it should be funny. I mean, right? I mean, it's like all those characters dressed up. I don't believe he didn't get, there's clips of him talking about how he didn't get permission to do any of that. And I don't believe that for 1 second, not 1 second. Because there's another clip of him going around where they're talking about that scene from Seinfeld where Kramer hits the golf ball into the whale, and George goes out and grabs the whale. And then Kramer goes, was it a Titleist? And there's a whole clip of him talking about how they had to get permission to even say the word Titleist.
Wow.
You can't be telling that story and then go, I did a whole Kellogg's thing and had all their mascots in a movie and portrayed their entire history. But it never occurred to me to get permission.
Well, maybe technically he didn't. Maybe someone else did.
There's no way a lawyer would
I would think
allow
Post
that.
would be more
Yeah,
upset than Kellogg because he kind of made Post look bad, like grandma's holes. And
Yeah,
I don't know.
I just can't believe it. There's no amount of lawyers in this world that would have allowed something to go through.
Yeah.
Like
there's brands that won't let a tweet go through because the legal team stopped it.
Yeah.
There's no way a whole movie gets spent.
Yeah,
made.
cease and desist orders are a thing.
My wife and I watched it this past weekend, and I laughed 1.5. I laughed once. I went, huh, once, and my wife laughed twice.
The laugh that you had, was it at the funeral thing?
I don't even remember the funeral thing. Honestly, I don't. I laughed at Walter Cronkite pounding the I think it was pounding the Play-Doh, and he was just talking about
silly putty.
Drinking. Yeah, the silly putty. He was pounding the silly putty, and he was talking about drinking or his frustration or something. I just laughed at that because Walter Cronkite, that's not his milieu, letting off steam and stuff. So I think that's what he was pounding and going, you let off steam the way you want to, or something. I can't remember now. But that's the only thing that I laughed at.
Well, I don't want to be a spoiler here for in case anybody out there wants to watch it and doesn't want it spoiled. But the funeral thing made me laugh out loud. Like
I honestly don't remember the funeral thing. I don't remember even who died.
Are you sure you were awake for the entire movie?
Wait a minute. I do remember the funeral now. It was the coffin in the ground that the guy, and the cereal.
I don't want to
milk
spoil it.
That's not me. You can not spoil it. I don't care.
I don't think you can spoil the Pop-Tart movie. Everyone knows how it turns out. They frost them at the end.
No, that's not the spoiler. Anyway, I mean, you don't want somebody giving away the punchline. See a joke, and basically, if I describe the funeral scene, everything that would make you laugh, you'd be expecting it.
Okay, well, all right. So everyone go watch it. Everyone should watch it and form their own opinion. Ron and I, we have different opinions of Ricky Stenicki, which is fine. Everyone watches something and has a different opinion. Sometimes it even depends on, you could have watched it 2 hours later and hated it, man.
Right.
So it's like, it's all about, is it worth one laugh and a huh? Probably not, right?
Yeah, no. It wasn't I am so freaking busy. But when my wife says, do you have an hour to watch TV with me? Knowing how much I've neglected her the past 2 weeks, I go, sure. And then the 1 hour turns to like 4 hours and a hand job or something.
Yeah.
I
hate when that happens.
Yeah. It's like
hand jobs are the worst. Hand jobs are the worst.
GD just told us why he didn't watch that movie. He gave himself a hand job and he fell asleep at the beginning of it. And they're like, oh.
No, if I'm prodded enough, I can remember what I saw. I just didn't enjoy the movie enough to actually, it's not like if you asked me about the movie Silverado. I love Silverado.
That's a long movie.
It's not long enough. They could have added 19 more scenes with John Cleese and the old man that played the Danny Glover's father. I
can't remember his name too. He was the guy from Crossroads. Good guy.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. Because I insinuated that you guys do homework for Crossing the Streams. You do homework for Classic Conversations, don't you? You read everybody's book and do some real homework and research on that stuff. That's it's got to be a labor of love for you to get involved in the amount of work you do for that stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, my podcast is something that I just love to do. The fact that I'm able to do it and I'm able to talk to the people that I want to talk to me is, just, a personal blessing. So it's like, yeah, I do research and, all that kind of stuff. And, I find that, the more you know about the person you're talking about, the more they'll talk to you and they'll start to give you other information, or it'll trigger things that they maybe hadn't thought of before. And so you can have a deeper, richer conversation.
I'm curious about your process for choosing guests. Do you just go out, who's got a book out, or just explain I'll put it in my words, and you tell me if I'm wrong. You guests of television and film who have maybe not been all that relevant that recently, but were big stars for a period of time, maybe 70s, 80s, that kind of stuff. A lot of guests along that nature, but they're not exactly like headlining or have something relevant on television or in film today. Is that fair?
It's fair to say within the next 5 years, most of my guests will have passed away. Yes, that is absolutely fair.
So how do you decide? Wow. Well,
is there a particular guest that you're hoping you have the last interview for in particular?
I think you had one, right? Didn't you have one? Or did you do Ed Asner right before he died?
I talked to Judy Tenuta and Ed Asner just before they had passed, and it's not a goal necessarily to be the last one. It's I enjoy.
Yeah, but if you had like the last, let's just say you interviewed Keith Richards, who no one ever expects to die ever.
That would be.
And you interview Keith Richards, and you get him to share something or whatever, and then he dies the next day. Okay, your show would be like the show that other shows are showing to show his last interview.
Maybe.
Yes, but GD, the problem with that is that's wishing on some of the worst karma that anyone could possibly.
What?
It's like saying that's like if you wish
for
something, it takes away somebody else. It's like what's the daisies. I can bring you to life, but that person dies. It's like
but what's the bad karma? I don't understand because we're all going to die anyway.
For success because someone will die after I talk to him.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that who do you want that to? I'm not. He's going to die anyway, whether you have the interview or not. I'm just spoiler alert. If you don't interview him, he's still going to die.
Any timing like that would be wonderful, whether unfortunate or positive.
Okay, so who do you want it to be?
I don't know. Who do I wish would come on my show and then die? That's what I'm saying. I don't want.
No, I just say call your show and die. I'm just saying you get their last interview. They could live for another 20 years and never do another interview.
All right.
So
it would be good. Like if I died on this program, the four of you.
Henry Winkler is who I want to talk to.
Would benefit from me dropping dead right now.
Okay, Henry Winkler. I can fix that for you. Because I think he's about to go anyway.
But to answer your question, I reach out to people that I
know are dying.
No, yeah, they know that I just want to talk to. The Ed Asner one. It just so happened they're like, well, Jeff, Ed would like to talk about his book. I'm like, okay, what's his book about? It's about his life. Okay. I can make that happen. I mean, so what else did you think I was going to talk about? And, so stuff like that. The books sometimes help because they're then more amenable to, there's two kind of categories. There's one, people that'll just talk to you because they'll talk to you. And, and then there's people that don't necessarily jump on a podcast unless, even if they're an older star, that they're promoting something.
Right.
And then they'll get on and they'll talk about everything and then kind of tag that at the end, which is fine. I'll take it. Sometimes, with comedians, it's some people that I've worked with. I have some people that introduce me to some people. I've had some great guests that way. Some people I've worked with personally, like our mutual friend, Jackie the Joke Man. And so, it just kind of comes at it that way. So, just ask a lot of people, and some people say yes, some people say no, and some people say maybe later.
So basically, with the older folks, this is just like people shows that you watch. It's basically the kind of Jeff who, before there was Crossing the Streams, was into all these kind of Mary Tyler Moore, Lou Grant, whatever, all these different shows. These are people who you were preparing for Crossing the Streams for before there was actually streaming.
So, well, I think of the podcast is, I don't know if my camera will do it, but I'll screw up my camera for a second. But you can kind of see some of the 8x10s behind me. That's my entire office is covered in those 8x10s. Those aren't people that were necessarily on the show, but my thing that I love, I'm doing it this coming up weekend actually, is going to the Motor City Comic-Con or Comic-Cons and meeting the celebrities that are there, getting their 8x10 signatures, maybe a photo with them. This weekend, I'm running some panels. And, and so that was always my thing. I loved doing that. So the podcast just became that, except I could talk to him for an hour, not here's $60. What's your name, Jeff? Signature next.
Yeah, somebody asked me why I do this. Basically, meet and greet. You get to say hello and goodbye, and that's it. But it's more like a extended meet and greet with comedians that I'm fans of, and that's basically why I do what I do. I mean, I really enjoy getting to know a comedian more than just a quick. Yeah, can you sign my I don't know, whatever. But so that's got to be interesting.
Penis.
Now,
I believe the word you were looking for was penis.
Yeah.
who Indeed, I can.
Do you have a advanced schedule of who's gonna 6 months down the road who you doing it for? Who's gonna be the guest on?
I have the way I do my show is I schedule whenever they're available and I record it. So I could go a year right now and never interview anyone else, and then I could put out weekly episodes.
Wow.
So I when I interview someone, I make sure it's kind of evergreen, or if they specifically talk about something, I will edit out time references to keep it evergreen, so it doesn't sound like you're listening to something old. And so, yeah, I mean, then I just kind of keep adding to that pile.
Seinfeld is Ian says evil. Ian says Seinfeld is Yiddish for Zionist shill. I don't know.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of Seinfeld hate out there, and I don't get it. I mean, I understand people bringing up the fact that he had a 17-year-old girlfriend when he was 30-something doing Seinfeld, all that stuff.
Everyone knew
That's
that.
old news.
Everyone knew that back then.
Yeah, that's old news. Like, whatever. I don't understand Seinfeld hate. Again, I'm not like a big defender or necessarily a fan of his. It's just surprising to me. People would walk out on a commencement speech. Now, from the people who stayed for the commencement speech, they said he made some really great inspirational points. I don't know what they were, but they said the speech was one of the better commencement speeches they've heard, not like just shtick and all that stuff. So with comedy, are you doing stand-up comedy at all? With everything else you're doing, two different kinds of shows and reading all these books and watching all this television, do you even have time to do stand-up?
Who's got time for stand-up when you got books?
Yeah. Exactly.
You sound like a librarian from the 70s saying that, Jeff.
I haven't done I haven't done stand-up as much this year. After the pandemic, I never fully jumped back into it because I was doing the podcast, and somehow, at least in this area, there seemed to be another 100 comedians that popped up. So I just
only 100.
I know, right?
Yeah, that's it. Oh my God! Don't come to Maryland. Don't come to DC, Maryland. My God. No.
Yeah, I got it.
It was like fighting for a $30 spot. It wasn't worth it, and so I kind of stepped away from that. It was one of those things where it was like, everyone stopped obviously during the pandemic, and then remember that one period where everyone's like, it's over, and then 3 months later, it was like, guess it's not over.
It was a false start.
Yeah, and so they had started rebooking that year during that month, during that period, and I was like, no, you guys are reading this wrong. This is not right. But they booked the whole year, and so by the time it came back, those people, the whole year was gone. Then, once things started to clear up again, and so I missed like that year, and then I was just like, ugh, it's like.
So that's weird though, because I don't care how what they could have a nuclear war and interrupt me from playing gigs, but at the end of it, my passion for doing it would still be there, and because I've done it my whole life. I can't imagine that the bug isn't still there. You don't have no desire to do it after, because to get into it, I think you'd have to be really. To have the courage to stand up there with an open with a microphone in front of strangers, you really have to have a real strong desire and passion for it to begin with. Did that passion die? You're not interested in it anymore?
No, I love it, and I've always loved it. And I don't know how long everyone has been doing comedy here, but like at least in this area,
Today's my first day.
Well, you know what? Look, at the heart, when I'm not a comedian, I'm a business person. So, like, I have, I've always had my own company and stuff like that. So I think like a business person. And comedy, at least in this area, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but like, is nobody gives a shit. Like, meaning like you sign it for a weekend and you agree to a weekend and then they just cancel you and there's no retribution, And so, or you should, I mean, it's like there's things like that. There's no contracts, there's no nothing. And it's like you're just a thing that they're putting up to fill their space. I'm not a headliner. I've done it once, a couple times, but so I'm talking from a feature, mostly a feature point of view. And so, it's one of those things. And then you have, there's a whole flood of people, and it's just about, the networking. You start to fall behind in the networking, and then, you're not invited to the shows, and it's like, it's just, I don't drive 2 hours for $50. It's like at some point it just becomes, after 20 years, it was just a
Yeah,
little
I get
tiring. I
that.
wasn't going anywhere with it, so I wasn't going to fight that hard for it, and then I started doing the podcast, and that took up a lot of my time. So it was like I can't give up all. I had to make choices. Do I make $300
So
per
basically,
weekend? Yeah, or what? You know what I mean? It's like,
so basically, it's kind of like trying to get a girl who's put you in the friend zone, and it's just a lot of work, and you're never going to get out of the friend zone. So comedy kind of like put you in the friend zone, sort of.
kind of. I mean, like some clubs that just they get overrun. Like I said, there's so many people, and then the places I was booked at, I wasn't getting booked at anymore, and like I know, I mean, not to say we all know how good each other are, you know what I mean? But I know I deliver, so it's not like I don't, you know what I mean? So it was like, but I just, I just didn't have it into me to keep fighting
Interesting.
for it. It was just, I mean, I love doing it. Like when we went to a conference and a bunch of us were stand-ups and we did a show at this conference for everyone there, and that was great. I love doing it. There's nothing better when you're on stage. You don't want to be anywhere else, but just.
Yeah,
I don't have a good answer for you. It's not
it's a commitment. It's a life commitment. It definitely is. And
I'm not sure I gave it up or like, the comedy gave me up, and I'm just accepting it.
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm fine. Either way is.
I don't think I would be. I still, you know what? Again, I just, no matter what level I ended up on, I would still have to.
Well, I feel like I'm still doing stuff. I mean,
get
it's
it,
not
yeah.
stand-up comedy. I'm doing my podcast. It's on my own terms. I get to have conversations. All the skills I use as a comedian, I can use during a conversation, and be personable or kind of funny, without it being overtly obvious. And I'm just trying to make a joke, to make it an enjoyable conversation. So I don't feel like I'm not using the skills that I built up over those,
But what about backstabbing? Because that's a skill that you learn in comedy that you can't really use on podcast shows as well.
Yes,
I mean,
I use it every day.
I was never really good at that, and that's probably another reason why I'm not doing it anymore.
Oh, okay. Because I'll say that's
Yeah.
a crucial skill. I mean, I have honed my backstabbing skills, and
Well,
also
you don't
my.
see when you, like last week when you popped out for for that one interview with Lana Seibel, I was stabbing you back the entire time you were gone. Like, so we do that every day here. You just don't notice it because you're generally the recipient of it.
I was listening to that. I had my earbud in. I was listening to that whole conversation. And what you call stabbing in the back, I think is the nicest things you've ever said about me ever. So I took them as compliments.
If someone cares enough to try and screw up your life, they must care on some level.
It was stabbing with a Nerf knife.
Yeah, I was almost in tears behind the relative closeness to kindness to which he came.
Right. So, Jeff, you mentioned your business stuff. Most people don't know that you actually invented hashtag. Before you came along, it was just like a number sign or like a tic-tac-toe symbol. But you invented hashtags. Is that correct? Say yes.
We need to go back to the part where you talk about doing research before.
Oh, so you
I think he said he did hash, not invented hashtag.
No, that went away, though.
I founded a huge community on Twitter where we played hashtag games. And from 2015 to 2020, we ruled Twitter in the organic top 10 space in the top US trends with the hashtag games, made popular. Yeah, you probably are familiar with them from like At Midnight or something like that. But like we would do them all day, and we had hosts and so we had an app and all that kind of stuff. And so we did that for a really long time. It got a little, in the Trump era of politics, and when the conversation started shifting a little bit, being all about politics, the trending became a little more difficult after that. But but that was a good run, I'd say.
So you know about this hashtag stuff and how it works, because I don't know how it works. I mean, because somebody said to me last week, one of the comedians was talking about one wrong hashtag and your upload is whatever. It's not going to get any views at all. One bad hashtag could kill it. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I am confused about how hashtags work and why they're important and choosing the right ones and all that stuff. Can you clue me in on any of that stuff? I mean, you're not going to give me a complete overall in the time we have, but can you help me out, figure out what the importance of it is and how to go about doing it right?
I'll give you the very high level. The very high level is if we all posted something on Instagram and all used the hashtags, let's say hashtag comedy, right? And they were all comedic posts, and you were on one of those person's posts and you clicked on the hashtag comedy. In theory, what should happen is you come to a news screen of all the people that use that hashtag comedy. And now it's a different way to find content that you're interested in via that hashtag. So if you just make up a hashtag, like hashtag mine dog, it's likely that's not going to do anything for you, because you're probably the only one using it. Now, it might bring up all your posts if someone's like a super fan, and for that one person, it might be worth doing. But otherwise, that's it at a gist.
I'm offended by that one.
There's rumors that there's bad hashtags. You could put one. Instagram maybe says this is bad.
My super fans are actually double the audience you gave me credit for. Definitely two.
I apologize to the other two super fans.
But on the other hand, if you're beginning, so let's say for example, I'm just going to take myself as an example.
Yeah, use yourself.
At some point, I was a beginner in comedy. So let's say I did hashtag GD Fenderson 10 years ago. If they're doing hashtags, and there was like one post. Now, 10 years later, hashtag GD Fenderson, things that I've done 10 years ago are still attached, right? So it builds up over time. So
but it can also just go to your feed, right? I mean, there's different. Yes, in theory, yes. If you want to play the long game, I'm not disagreeing with you. It's absolutely, but it doesn't do anything in the short term. I
don't think. Right. So crossing this, we're kind of out of time. We got to get to the news. Crossing the Streams is weekly, and Classic Conversations is whenever he feels like it.
It's every Monday at midnight is Classic Conversations. I'll be running a masterclass on how to prep for your guest.
I thought you said I could.
I'm gonna say that. Okay, Matt does not like to prep for his guests. Okay, as a matter of fact, he has chided me many times, saying, GD, when you're going too deep into the lives of these people, stop it. Stop it. You're preparing too much. You stop it. I had like 9 hours of research on you, okay? Even as far as like the origin of your last name, because I didn't know if it was like Duoskin or Duoskin, like related to Duos, and I did like 9 hours of research, and I brought it to Matt in like a PowerPoint presentation, and Matt goes, nobody gives a fuck. He doesn't even care about his own last name.
No, he does.
I tell you, it's really funny. You say that is somebody. I was talking to somebody who I'd never really talked to, and then I talked to him for the first time. Like you're friends with people on social, so you don't like talk, right? And then you read names, so you don't really know how they're pronounced. And they're like, oh, and I'm talking to them like, oh, finally I know how to say your last name from listening to me say it. And then they said it back to me. I go, that's not how you say my last name. And they're like, that's how you're saying it. And I realized like I say it if I'm going like fast, like I pronounce it differently than if I'm saying it slow.
That's really weird.
Like growing up, I would say Dwaskin, and my brother would say Dwaskin. And so his nickname among his friends was Dwask, because that's where he changed the emphasis. And my friends called me Dwas, because I said Dwaskin. You know what I mean? So it's like, I have no idea. So all your research.
The New York pronunciation of it's just Dwaskin.
Dwaskin.
That's how, and you know what? You'd make it big in New York with just that one name. You could drop the Jeff and just, I am Dwaskin. And then you would be like a major celebrity in New York because you got one name. Anybody with one name is definitely worth knowing more.
I did feel really when I interviewed Robert Klein.
Is one word? Because that's what they call me in New York. They call me fuckface. Is that one word? Because I should be famous.
Absolutely.
I think. But when I interviewed Robert Klein, he called me Dwaskin, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah. You know what? I think he mentioned you to me because we were talking about podcasters, and ones that I know, and I think he called you Dwaskin. Pretty funny. I don't know. That's good. You know, I would go with that. It's like a punk rock band or something. Dwaskin. I don't know. What do I know? Don't pay attention to me. I'm just here. Anyway, I do appreciate you getting up early and helping us kill the first hour of this show. That's some time. And hope people will check out now. So Mondays at midnight is Classic Conversations. When is Crossing the Stream? That's not midnight. That's like
usually Wednesdays at 9:30 p.m. Most weeks live. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's live. Do you know the guests for this week? Ron is
the guest for this week.
Co-host.
Yeah, I think we might have to take this week off actually, just because I'm doing the Comic-Con this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's like that's gonna take up all my life, and so I think I might need Wednesday night to do other stuff. So.
All right. Well, good luck with it anyway. I mean, if you're on, it's only on Facebook or is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. If you search Jeff Dwaskin Show on YouTube or something, there's over 130
I just
want
to let people know jeffisfunny.com is still your URL, and that will lead them to everywhere they need to go, right?
That is correct. That is correct. I have fact checked you, and that was the one thing you got right.
Okay. Well, I got something right. I got something right. That's all that counts. Anyway, go eat some raw chicken and get back to us. I'm
gonna go eat some raw pork that Ron made.
Oh no, stay away from the raw pork.
After not washing his hands.
Yeah, you might get a brain worm. We're gonna do the news first, and then we're gonna watch some guy eat raw chicken. Thanks for being here, Jeff. Have a great day. Bye for now. Oh, I cut him off. That's what I do. I cut people off. I'm gonna do the news. Let's get out of my spot. And then we'll come back with some raw chicken eating or something. News in Allen. Big stuff in the news today.
Federal prosecutors are seeking the maximum sentence for the man who was convicted of breaking into former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's San Francisco home and attacking her husband Paul with a hammer in 2022.
The Department of Justice has filed a sentencing memorandum in anticipation of this week's sentencing of David DePape, stating that he should be imprisoned for 40 years for his crimes. DePape was convicted in November for the October 28, 2022 break-in and attack on Paul Pelosi. Liam White reporting.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has overseen another test firing of a new multiple rocket launch system that the country plans to deploy to its forces starting this year, according to state media reports.
North Korea's official Korean Central News Agency said Friday's test confirmed the advantage and destructive power of the 240mm multiple rocket launcher and its guided shells. The agency stated that the system, which the North has already tested twice this year, will be deployed to combat units from 2024 to 2026 to replace older weapons. Joseph Eckerson reporting.
Russian military forces have launched a fresh series of attacks on the region surrounding the northeastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, leading to the evacuation of thousands from the area.
On Saturday, Russian officials claimed to have captured 5 villages near the Ukrainian town of Vovchansk, which is situated just 3.7 miles from the border with Russia. However, Kharkiv Oblast Governor Ole Sinyahubov later refuted these claims, stating during a broadcast on Ukrainian national television that no territory had been lost. Benjamin White reporting.
A federal judge in Texas has temporarily halted a plan by the Biden administration to cap late fees on credit cards, a move that was scheduled to take effect this week.
The temporary nationwide injunction imposed by Judge Mark Pittman in the Northern District of Texas is a victory for major banks and credit card companies, which generate billions in revenue each year from late fees, and were seeking to prevent the proposal from being implemented. Paul Gomez reporting.
I think there's one more story.
This is the latest news headlines.
That one is a big one. It's like, yeah, victory
Oprah
for the
Winfrey
bank.
is apologizing for being a major contributor to diet culture.
While hosting the Weight Watchers Live special, Making the Shift, on Thursday, the talk show host acknowledged her role in diet culture.
All right. Oprah Winfrey is apologizing for being fat. That's the news. I didn't want to get prolong it. That thing in Texas. Putting a cap on late fees for credit card stuff. A major win for the banks, not for the people.
Right.
Texas doesn't care about the people. The party that claims to be all about the working class and about people. Now, late fees are a thing, and if you're late, you should be. But to put a cap on it, I think is fair. Or to just unrestrict it and say no caps, they can charge you whatever they want in late fees. That doesn't sound like you're for the people. And when the newscaster says that's a big win for the banks, like that's a good thing, what he's really saying is that's a boot up your ass, America. Fuck you. We don't care about you. It's just bad stuff. I mean, I don't like it.
Well, to me, it's almost it's not quite the same, but it's like ATM fees. Why are ATM fees still allowed at this point? At this point in time, they've been around forever. The banks are, they're just collecting free money essentially.
I'm not sure how they would, because this is a confusing thing for me. If I go to my bank, I don't get charged a fee. Right, for using it.
If you go to your bank, but say like you're just out somewhere and you need to use an ATM, then what happens? You get charged whatever, anywhere.
Yeah, but those banks? Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, so if I went into a bank that's not my bank to use an ATM, I would get charged a fee.
Well, even an independent, like if you went into like a pub, a club or something, and they have their Joe's ATM.
Are those banks or are those like ATM?
I think they're like vending machines.
Vending machine company.
It's both. It's both. It's like banks and like the owner of the property or whatever.
Well, I could see that to some extent. Like what would be your incentive of even putting ATMs in? If you're not a bank and you're just one of these ATM vendor type of guys, you'd have no incentive if you can't make any kind of profit on it. So I don't know. For that, don't use those fucking machines. Go to your bank. That's all I'm saying.
The only now if the fees are like. Some of them are like ridiculous because sometimes it's like $4 or $2. I've seen as high. The highest I've ever seen was like I think $10, and that was at a racetrack. And yeah,
and it's 10 bucks for like every 100, right? So if you took out
something like that, yeah, right, yeah. So But on the other hand, if you're like in a club and it's late at night, I can see the $4 for two reasons. One, you don't have to walk out in the street looking for an ATM and possibly get mugged while so you're in a bar where you're probably just going to get drugged and raped, but at least you won't get robbed,
But does the bartender not or the waitresses not take your card? Because I don't understand the reason for needing the cash and going and paying the extra.
Some places still operate just on cash only.
Wow.
And some places also, for example, if you have like a I'm just gonna say what's the York Inn, West York Inn. They have a back room where they can have concerts and stuff. And if the person holding the concert doesn't take a card or they want cash or something, you can actually get cash and then get into the concert or whatever. I'm just saying, I don't know.
Or if your drug dealer is there.
I was refraining from trying to say that, But yes,
or your hooker, your favorite hooker, your hooker of choice.
That as well. Yeah.
And plus, it wouldn't be America if we didn't charge a fee for everything.
Yeah, but again, caps on late fees. I think that's
yeah, that would
thing.
be. But it's now true. The Republican Party are actually against capping the fees, but this time it's not them doing it. It's brought by the banks, who are probably Republican. The CEOs, because it's not the banks. Banks don't do shit, but the CEOs and attorneys for those CEOs, they're the ones who brought the cases.
Yeah, well, it was a Republican judge, and I feel like, you know what, some of these judges just have too much fucking power.
Well, that's why they shopped it in Texas. They knew they'd get a friendly thing. As long, that's the one thing that I can't stand about the way these federal courts work. You can shop, and look for a conservative judge or a liberal judge, as opposed to just. I honestly think the judges should be signed randomly. Just you don't know who you're going to get, and it's a big pool of judges.
So it's like a box of chocolates.
Yes, a box of just chocolates. Yes, and that's why I think the Supreme Court should be 13 judges, and they randomly pick 9 to hear a case. That way, you can't design your case for your 6-3 conservative judges, saying that, well, we know that Alito likes this, and we know that Thomas likes this, so if we word it this way, we got them.
Right. Now, before we look at some chicken being consumed, are you familiar with ACK, CD? ACK?
I know a guy named ACK. I know a comedian.
Is it you with my glasses? You take my glasses and then your ACK? Is that what it is? Because the picture I saw, it looks like you with these glasses, and his name is ACK. He's a comedian.
I know a comedian named ACK. Right. That's ACK. I know ACK. I do know ACK, but he has a bald head, doesn't he?
He has.
But you know who ACK?
He has your hair.
Yeah. No,
really?
Your beard. Your complexion of blackness. Your face with these glasses on. Here.
I just saw him like 3 months ago.
That's him. That's him.
It wasn't even 3 months ago, because I was trying to remember where I saw him. I said, I just spoke with ACK. Where did I see him? And then I said, and we went out for drinks afterwards. Where did we go? And I couldn't remember.
Are you sure it wasn't your imaginary self? Like it's like
no, it was
something.
No, because there was a woman also there, and I remember, and I saw her again. I said, okay, I didn't remember where. I remembered what happened that night.
I just, I don't know. I thought maybe this was like an alter ego, like a persona.
No, but I do know ACK. Right. He's to his claim to fame for the most part was he was a Vegas
chicken.
No, he used to work at Vegas, and he was like one of the Star Trek aliens. For and when to meet and greet people.
I could see that.
Yeah, he was dressed up as like one of the Star Trek aliens. I can't remember the name of the alien, but if I saw it, the Next Generation one with Whoopi Goldberg, that one. If I remember, if I saw the alien, I could tell you.
Interesting. Which one. I did a reel on William Shatner. I was surprised at the numbers that people and the comments. People love William Shatner. He's kind of a weird dude.
Yeah, he's a beloved icon. I don't know if he's. He went from being like a caricature, and in fact, I'm not even sure if he hasn't become a caricature of Captain Kirk.
Yeah, he's on Twitter, and he kind of gets nasty with people. He's, I don't know, an advocate or a for some kind of treatment for autism or something. He's involved with the treatment of autism or diagnosis and causes of autism foundations or whatever. But he argues with people all day long, and he argues like people do online. He gets really nasty with some people. It's like, I don't know. So that's why it's surprising for me to see how beloved he is, because he's a cantankerous old cat like me, like get off my lawn type of guy.
Yeah, but at some point you become, if you become,
nobody loves me, and I'm the same asshole he is.
I'm just saying, at some point, you can become like an old, if you're lovable and you become old and cantankerous, they will just grandfather that in.
My problem, I didn't start out as lovable. I've always been an asshole. So that's my problem. I should have been lovable when I was young. Who knew? Who knew? Anyway, you want to show us some raw chicken?
Sure, why not? Everyone
is this
Stephen had
raw
to go,
chicken?
by the way. He ate some raw pork, and he has a doctor's appointment he has to get to really quickly now.
I thought he went to pick up his kid and to give her raw pork.
All right.
And here we go.
Today we're at the mall trying one of these new fancy sandwiches.
And this is it? He doesn't speak with...
Nope. He just eats raw chicken.
And is that a wig?
They wouldn't sell me a raw one, so I had to bring my own patty.
It says,
yeah, and he's got
eating raw chicken every day till I get a tummy ache. Now, can you order it raw at? It looks like he's at Chick-fil-A, right? Or
no, he just said they wouldn't serve him a raw patty, so he brought his own meat.
Is that what he said? I wasn't hearing.
Yeah, he brought his own patty, and here is like
how many? Let me see the numbers. He's got 531,000. Jesus, people are like entertained by those dopiest stuff. 320,000, 66,000. Now that only. It's weird how he can go for his average is like under 100,000, but then he has some that are almost 600,000. Like that one. What's the difference? What makes the difference in this guy's content?
Whether or not the bun is sesame seed, or if it's an everything bun, whether or not he's drinking lemonade from Chick-fil-A, I don't know. Ron's the expert. I'm just
Ron is the expert. I mean, 320.
Yeah, it's just weird. He's got 22,000 followers. And yeah,
there's one. He's got 2.3 million. What is that one? The top right, my right.
Okay, all right, there we go.
Day one, eating raw chicken every day.
Day one. So that's been around the longest.
Oh, he's no bread. He's just eating it. Oh,
yeah. Then he's got egg yolks there.
This just remember this guy. The first human death from bird flu. We're looking at it right now.
Yeah,
it depends on the chicken too.
Well, even if he doesn't get sick right away, you would think over time that's gonna parasites and shit.
Whoa! All right, I have no.
Well, see again now because the parasites.
Go ahead. Parasite what?
I was just saying because some parasites he could be gotten rid of without cooking the food. It's just easy. It's just better if you do cook it to like 160.
Man, my stomach's a little upset just from watching that.
Yeah, it's not nice. It's not nice to watch.
But so according to what I read this morning, bird flu is everywhere. It started in Canada, and this is why eggs are so high. Basically, chickens are still dying en masse, and why the price of eggs is so high. But it's also
and people are going to blame Biden for that. And Biden has nothing to do with it. No president can stop a bird flu unless you kill all the birds. Then you kill the bird flu, maybe.
Oh, well, that's kind of talking. The Obama administration and their approach to the H2N1 possible pandemic, they took credit for that. So I don't think you can take credit for stopping a pandemic and also say we're not responsible if it happens now. So that's kind of.
I'm not saying that they should even take credit for stopping it. I'm just saying that 8 birds, passing around flu to places like big, whatever you call big beef, big meat, big meat.
I call it big beef.
Big
we call
beef.
it all the time when we're talking. We're around the house. We're just shooting a breeze. Big beef. Yeah, big beef comes up a lot. That was my cow out back who seemed to catch a little bird flu, but
at least she's not hoarse.
So it's in milk. It's in milk. They were saying there are traces of it in milk throughout the U.S. now, but don't worry, it's not a problem. But humans have gotten it, contracted H5N1. It is a possible pandemic looming, and it doesn't seem like the government. Listen, if we're going to blame Trump for being very nonchalant about COVID, I think the government really should be more vigilant on like what the possibilities are with bird flu becoming a big pandemic. Not that they
like I said, the CDC is trying to. I don't understand how these big meat processing places can keep the CDC from investigating. I do not understand. I mean, they're the CDC. They're the Center for Disease Control.
Now it's easy because like all food production in the US is controlled by like 3 companies at this point. It's 3 large corporations. It might even be 2. And so with that much clout and power, they can pretty much do what they want until something happens.
Right. That's what I said, but I don't understand. Still, the CDC, it's like they have their job is to help prevent disease and track it down and stuff like that. That's disease control. I mean, that is their thing. And I don't understand how and they're there for the public good. So I don't understand how a corporation who serves the public, I mean, the public buys their stuff. I don't understand how they can be so fucking powerful that they can keep the CDC out. I'm not saying I understand it is being done. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me how it's allowed to happen.
It's not necessarily allowed to happen. It's basically the people who are in charge of not letting it happen are getting enough greenbacks that they say, "Oh, I didn't notice it was happening. Oh, it's happening over there. Oh, it's happening."
Well, like if like 15 years ago, there was I'm not sure if you remember this, but 15 years ago there was a company called I believe it was called American Peanut Butter. And American Peanut Butter went out of business because what happened was at their the largest plant that was making peanut butter, they had roof leaks. They had their roof was not in good shape at all, and it was leaking into the product. And so what happened is they caused their own salmonella outbreak in the plant inside the peanut butter. And so what happened was people brought this to the attention of the management and the people running the plant. They're like, "Hey, we got leaks. This is we can't send this stuff out." And the top guy's like, "Nah, we'll be good." And he signed off on it, and they sent it out, and they sent out contaminated product. So during that time, when that happened, the food industry went through this big major change. We're gonna do this different. So now, fast forward 15 years now, there's less companies now making the food. So now we're almost back to square one because they can fucking do what they want.
Yeah. My brother, by the way, yesterday, GD texted me to say hello to my brother. My brother actually, I was on the phone with my brother. He said, how's GD Fenderson doing? I was like, that's funny. He just texted me to say hello to you. He said, "Yeah, tell him I don't care very much for black people." And then we both laughed. Now, but then he went on a long rant telling me how we're probably, me and him, same bloodline, are probably some percentage of black, and he was going on this whole thing about heritage and all this stuff, 23andMe, and doing the DNA stuff, And I said, it's kind of funny if you look at it. You're saying that as almost like it's a bad thing. I think GD says the same thing about his lineage, that he's only a percentage of African and different percentages of other things. And for him, that's a good thing. It's just a matter of perspective where you are on the food chain in America right now. So.
Well, I'm 27% European, which is disturbing to me only because it's just disturbing to me only because that the people that used to own my ancestors, it's just because of the reason I'm that, if they didn't used to own my ancestors, I wouldn't be 27% European.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't by choice. It wasn't consensual European.
No, I'm not. It's not consensual European. My ancestors were.
Well, to be fair, I'm not sure the African part of where my brother's claiming it was consensual either. So I mean, but the reason I bring my brother up is because we're talking about this disease stuff, and he
and when you think of disease, you think of your brother. That makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we was talking about, because he's had cancer for 40 years and still not dead. But somebody about 3 months ago told him to take ivermectin, and we were talking about brainworms and stuff. And he said ivermectin kills all parasites in you, and this other thing that he takes alongside the ivermectin. And he said there are people online saying that it's like a cure for cancer. If you take ivermectin in conjunction with this other thing. I'm not spreading this, by the way, YouTube. I'm not spreading false health information. But he said he did this without telling his doctor. Next time he went to the doctor, he said, "Wow, I've never seen the medicine you're on this effective. It looks like you're like completely in remission." And he's like giving credit to the ivermectin and whatever this other thing was. And like it was like, you know what? He's the first guy to poo-poo any of these like claims of miracle cures, but now he's trying to convince me, because I was paranoid about this brainworm thing. I'm still like, I don't want to get a brainworm.
Well, when he went to go see his doctor, did he go in there and go, "Doctor, I'm having trouble moving"?
No, he actually is keeping it hidden from his doctor that he's taking this stuff. So,
see, the doctor, and I have issue with that only because, like, my mom, this is before she died, and she was still seeing a doctor. She doesn't see the same doctor now that she's died. But when she was alive, the doctor was trying to treat my mother for her cancer, and he asked her. He says, are you smoking? And my mother says, "No." And I looked at my mother and I said, "Mom, stop lying to the doctor." I said, the doctor said, "My mother does smoke. She smokes like a chimney."
Yeah.
And my mother goes, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Mom," because if he's going to treat you, he needs to know what you're putting in your body so that what he puts in your body doesn't get all screwed up.
Right.
And because of that, my mother stopped me from going to the doctors with her and got my niece to go with her because I was like a rat.
And what's the point of going to a doctor if you're going to lie to him? I mean, I would just, if you don't trust your doctors, just don't go. Uh-oh, what's this?
Right.
Ian's a little nostalgic for mad cow disease. Now, that doesn't seem like a mad cow. He seems like a happy cow.
No,
what's he saying? What's he saying? He needs closed caption because I can't hear what he's saying.
I think he was burping, according to what the comments were in there.
Oh.
But yeah, I don't know. Has mad cow disease gone away? I don't think so, right?
No, I think it's still out there in some form.
It's just not enough for people to care about it.
Well.
And they say you can cook it out of your beet, right? They say you can cook it out. It's not like
bovine spongiform encephalopathy is what mad cow disease is. It's still around.
It also depends on which species it's in, because I think it's like changes names depending on what species it's in.
Isn't that what RFK has?
I don't know. All right, let's because I wanted to talk. I mean, did you watch the clip at all of of his stand-up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you hear the jokes? Because I couldn't hear the joke. I couldn't make out the jokes. It did
He
seem like
made a reference to something that might have been funny to somebody about having a brainworm, but I
wonder if Mike wrote. I should ask Mike if he wrote the jokes for him. Because
and
I
brought
like
Cheryl Hines, is that her name? He brought her out, and I guess that was the happy ending.
Yeah,
I guess that was a happy ending. Is like he's like, I want to do a joke, and she about a leprechaun joke, and she goes, you can't do that,
I couldn't hear the jokes, and that's the only issue I have with him doing comedy is I couldn't. I mean, when Ron does the imitation, I don't hate to blow it for the people on the radio, but that's not actually Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
What? You're ruining the magic.
I know. I just destroyed the fourth wall altogether. But I mean, I can only take that for 4 minutes or so. I can't listen to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. try to tell jokes like when you were two guys walking into a bar and whatever. I'm walking out. That's my problem. It's not the fact that he's running for president or politics or any of that kind of stuff. But the audience seemed to really, I don't know if they were laughing, right? They were, or do you think they were enjoying it or just caught up in the oddness of?
Probably both, but I mean that is a friendly room, essentially, for him to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It is what it is, but it kind of I didn't understand Stephen, because we talk about gatekeepers. You can't keep. I mean, what's the real problem with him doing it? Is that he was not funny? Well, there's 8 billion not funny.
Yeah, to me it was just that he wasn't. I didn't. But then again, I don't know the difference between him being not funny and somebody who doesn't have a recognizable name not being funny.
Right.
Not funny is not funny.
Right.
Yeah. And I think there might be like rules involved campaign wise. Like if he shows up on there, like you can't so much really campaign.
You can't say vote for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Things like that. Yeah.
I wonder how many of those people are actually going to fucking vote anyway. I don't know. You never know. Well, I don't really know the crowd, but
yeah, to me it just seems like very forceful. It's like, why are you trying to put this guy out in front of everybody? It's not like he's Mr. Excitement or like bringing these great new ideas to the table.
Mike is been in his corner because Mike has been friends with him for many, many years. And look, Mike's a good guy, and Robert Klein was a good guy, and friends with Robert Kennedy Jr. But he told me he was really disappointed in what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is doing now. But Mike has been supportive of him in his presidential run through thick and thin. And he fights with people all the time if they criticize RFK. He fought with me when I said his book numbers were, imagine he hasn't sold 100 hard copy covers of that fucking Fauci book. There's no way a million. He didn't sell 1 million books total, audio book. And ebook and whatever. He didn't sell 1 million copies. I know how the publishing companies industries work, and it's all bullshit. All the numbers are bullshit. But he fought very aggressively with me on that kind of stuff. So he's a guy who has a vested interest in seeing his friend get elected president. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I would hope my friends, if I were running, would be as supportive of me as he is of RFQ. But I don't think he's necessarily all that well informed or right about any of the things that he's defending him on.
No, and it's just I think really the only people that are maybe still listening is just because they're so bored of the potential election coming up. Because it's what Trump is all about, what Biden's all about. At least with RFK, he's got that terrible voice, and and I guess he's entertainment at this point.
I bet you my wife doesn't. I think I have brought him up, and she didn't really know. anything about him. But I bet you there's a lot of people who still don't know anything about him.
I actually seen a house like 2 weeks ago that actually had a RFK sign out front. It's like, really?
That would be interesting. I haven't seen one of those, but I haven't seen any with the Biden stuff either.
Ron, your house doesn't count. It doesn't count. Ron put it in front of his own house and took the picture and then took it off. It doesn't count.
To be honest,
I haven't
before
seen
Trump,
really...
I didn't see a whole lot of people ever in my life who would dress up their house for a presidential candidate. You might see a lawn sign every once in a while. But...
around where I am, there are quite a few people who dress up their homes for Trump. Yeah. I mean, they've got the AK-47 things, the Trump banners, the Confederate flags.
Yeah,
and it's now in my neighborhood. And we don't have homeowners associations in the neighborhood where I live, but there's no homeowners association. But the reason why my wife and I bought a house here is because when we drove up, it was around October, there was not one political sign in the entire neighborhood. And there's no reason to stop people from doing it. And because we don't care who our neighbor votes for per se. We just don't want them to be asshole neighbors. And so when we didn't see any signs, my wife and I, we go, that's a good sign for us that there are no signs. I mean, to get into our neighborhood, you got to pass this house that my wife really says somebody should burn that house down. And I don't know if because she says it to me, and I don't know if it's something she really wants for her birthday or something.
Yeah. No.
Well, I mean, if you have political signs out from the last election, which some people do, and they're mainly Trumpers, it's like you know that person is just a horrible person, just in life dealing with, not because it's one political side or not, but if you're that into it to leave up your signs and make a big deal, it's like you've got issues, man.
There was one house. Okay, some of you are familiar with lawn jockeys.
Yeah.
Okay. I used to pass this one house every day. They had a lawn jockey, but the lawn jockey was actually about 5 or 6 foot tall. It was a very tall lawn jockey.
Taller than a real jockey.
Yeah,